What is up, guys? BJ Dell back with an all-new Cartooning 101. Today's video is all about how to draw the cartoon mouth. I'm going to walk you through the complete process using an iPad Pro 12.9-inch, first-gen model, the Apple Pencil, and Procreate, but this is not a digital tutorial, so if you don't have an iPad or a computer or a tablet, do not worry, just grab a piece of paper and a pencil, follow along, and keep watching. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with cartoon mouths. The first ones we're going to focus on are just the basic male mouth. Unfortunately with male mouths, there's not really a way to break it down into, basic shapes, just because male mouths I like to keep simple. So if we just start with, kind of a basic line that comes up and around, just a basic smile, do some corner lines here for the sides of the mouth where the crease comes in. That's gonna be basically a male mouth. I mean, there's not a lot to it. From here, I don't like to do lips with males just because it makes it look too feminine with cartoons. I will actually put in just like the hint of a bottom lip here usually, just to kind of show where that bottom lip is and then kind of shade in underneath like it has some weight to it. Something like that just kind of gives off that nice look to it. If you're doing a more, let's say, kind of chiseled male, adding sharper angles is something that you can get away with as well. So adding more of, like I said, just the angles in here, same thing with this bottom lip, adding in a sharper angle down here and then shading in. This kind of has that almost like Superman-esque look to it. You can almost see the, chiseled jawline coming down here up and around. So that's the, the basic steps that I would take with that. Of course, from there, that's just the basic smile, nothing too crazy. Once we start to open up the mouth, that's where we can kind of have some fun on there. So let's move these out of the way and let's start with an open mouth. So with this, we're going to kind of draw a bigger, more angled upper lip. It's going to have almost like a curved V to it. We'll draw in the sides of the mouth here and then pulling this down almost into an even more kind of stretched out V shape here. This is going to allow us to get a nice wide open smile here. We can once again pull in the lip down here with some shading underneath to kind of give the impression of where that bottom lip is. And then from here, it's really up to you what you want to do with the teeth. We can go ahead and let's just do a solid line across here, not actually connecting. And then we've got a pretty big open mouth smile, or closed teeth, but open mouth smile here. That would work really well for a pretty happy, excited character. Take that one step further again by just affecting the way that those teeth are. So pulling the mouth down a little bit more of a curve here, doing the shading here under the lip, and then we'll do just the top row of teeth here, and then let's just do a tongue down here, and then shading in where the inside of the mouth is here. Kind of gives a nice open mouth smile here, a little bit more energy. You can kind of convey a little bit more emotion here. That's one of the key things to think about when you're doing mouths, is really focusing on the expression that you're going for. What's happening in the scene, what's happening if you're doing comics in that panel. You can really kind of convey that really quick to the viewer just by using the mouth. Of course, you can do stuff with the eyes too, but the mouth is going to be the one that you can get the most out of. So let's bring this down even further, taking this one step along, and teeth up at the top. Let's do teeth at the bottom as well, and then the tongue here. Let's do the uvula back here, and then kind of shading in. This one's almost going to have a kind of like Joker-esque look to it almost. So this would be something that somebody's really laughing a lot, something is just absolutely hilarious, or even like with the Joker, almost like a maniacal laugh, and it's just really big, really wide, and kind of you can see the progression that this takes along to kind of show the changes in expression. From here, like I said, you can't really do a lot with shapes in this section. You can start to do a little bit more with shapes in this. And then once you go in for, other angles, you can kind of play around with doing shapes to block in the overall shape of the mouth. So let's do like a really wide open mouth here. So let's get a really nice, just crazy oblong, just blob shape here. And this is going to kind of be an open screaming mouth. So from here we can kind of start to block in the lips. So we're going to bring this around the top here. And this is almost going to kind of come out and over. So it kind of wraps around. And then we'll bring in the teeth down here. Once again, with the teeth, it's up to you how you want to do the teeth. With cartoons, I usually try to go for this style here. I don't like to, draw in the individual teeth because sometimes it looks to be, a little bit too much for cartoons. If you want to, you can at least kind of do the lines here to give the impression where the teeth come from to keep it a little bit simple. Like I said, sometimes just adding these in like this is just a little bit too much for cartoons, but really it comes down to your style and what you want to do. So definitely play around with it and see what fits best for the character you're doing. This one I'm just going to have just like a big row of teeth right here. And then this mouth is going to come down from the side here. Like I said, a really big, open, screaming mouth almost. We'll pull this bottom lip out and around. And we're going to do some teeth that kind of wrap back into the distance. So from here, what we're going to do, pull in from the side here and do a curve back in upon itself. And then coming down. This is going to be where the row of teeth wrap back down and around. So it's almost got that kind of third dimension to it, and then we can put the tongue in here, and you see it's got a really nice feel to it. Kind of drop in these lines here for the teeth to kind of show where those go, and then we can just go ahead and shade in inside here to kind of finish everything out. Let's give that uvula there. So this one is, somebody really screaming. It's a really huge, cartoony, expressive nature. You can almost, see the spittle coming out of this as this character is yelling. So definitely kind of play around, see what works best for you, and just play around with it. Like I said, the mouth is going to be one of the most expressive parts of the face, and you can get some really cool looks. And using cartooning, like I said before, is so much fun because you can just play around with the proportions, play around with the perspectives, and get some really cool looks out of it. Same thing with the mouth that goes here. Let's talk about babies for a second. Changing the style up a little bit for a baby. If you go and have a big round head, we've talked about drawing babies before. It comes down to a very small chin and jawline here and around with the ears. I like to have the eyes just absolutely huge on babies. It gives that very expressive, kind of innocent and just questioning what's going on in the world, and they want to get into everything. So you've got these really big eyes, and then of course a really, tiny, cute nose. And then for the mouth of babies, I like to use basic shapes for this. Kind of like that questioning look is almost just a 6. So if you draw just a 6 like this is going to be kind of the inside of the mouth here. And then I put a little tail up here for the Cupid's bow. To come in there, and it's just got a really cute look to it. So you can play around with this as well when you're doing different styles of characters. I just recommend with babies and younger kids keeping the mouth fairly small. Something like this. The babies, the eyes are the main thing that I want to keep big. That and the cranium is the main portions that we want really exaggerated. The smaller the mouth on these, the better. Of course, if you're going for a super surprise look on a baby and you want to go super kind of crazy, you could do something huge like that, but I would just use that sparingly depending on the style that you're going for and what look you're trying to convey. So that's going to be the basic shapes for the male mouth. And then talking about babies, let's move into some other shapes that you can use for cartoons, and then we'll move on to the female mouth. So with this, let's go ahead and draw let's do like a crocodile. So we're going to have a huge snout coming out here, and then the nostrils up here, and we'll do the eyes coming around here. Just kind of shaping and everything so you can kind of see where all this flows together. And this is where you can have just, you know, a ton of fun by taking these angles and proportions and just going nuts. So this one, I almost want like a massive just grin to this guy. He's going to have huge rows of teeth. So we're going to bring those in, kind of curve this top one in and this bottom one out. This is going to be the teeth and just kind of this black part in here in the back to kind of separate everything. And then if you want to do the lines once again to separate those teeth even more, we'll give the sharp ones here in the front and then pulling down, you know, this around, wrapping in the bottom lip like so. Can just give a really big, open, wide expression for the mouth. This is almost like if you would see a cartoon, you can almost hear like the ding coming off, like if sunlight hits that, he just got done eating something and brushing his teeth, you would have that ding and the sharp kind of spotlight little thing here coming off. So like I said, just go crazy with proportions, have a lot of fun with what you're doing because there's so many different ways that you can approach a mouth. And with cartooning, honestly, the sky's the limit as far as, you know, what you're capable of, because you don't have to really follow, you know, realistic proportions, realistic perspectives and drawing techniques. So let's go ahead and we'll turn this guy, one more. Let's do a kind of surprise look. So once again, it all comes down to the shape of the mouth, the position of the teeth, so on and so forth. So if we do kind of a surprise look, you might have a just kind of dumbfounded like lip coming over the top here, coming down into this bottom lip. And you'll see it's just, what's going on here, you know? And then maybe down here, just have the teeth showing. And then the black area here for the inside of the mouth. So this one, we're not going to put any teeth up at the top here. It's just a really kind of dumbfounded look here. And then, of course, you would have, you know, the nose and then just maybe some surprised eyes here. Like, what the heck? So play around with, you know, the shapes, how the teeth work. You know, if you're going to show both rows, how the rows are going to connect. And you can come up with a lot of different options. So we'll turn this one off and finally get to the female mouth. And this one's going to be a little bit more in depth just because we're going to be able to use some of those building block foundations. So if you watched the previous video about noses, this is going to start out quite a bit like the nose. First, we're going to draw just the kind of shape of the smile here. So if you think about this, is honestly just like, you know, pretty much a smiley face starting out. We just want that shape. That's going to be the overall turn that the mouth takes. And then we're going to go ahead and draw a triangle on top of that line, followed by another triangle on the bottom sitting there. So as you can see, this is kind of using that same principle that we used for the nose. We've got one triangle sitting on top of another triangle, the top one being smaller just because the top lip is usually smaller than the bottom lip. And as these come out, then we can go ahead and add in the corners of the mouth here. I don't want to get them too far out. I've got this line coming out further than what I need, but that gives you an idea. Next up, we're going to add in a circle here in the center. This is going to be one of our guidelines moving on, and then a line down the center. So this is the overall look that we're going for. Let's turn down the opacity on this a little bit so I can go ahead and darken it in and show you. All right, so what we're going to do now is start to darken everything. I'm going to put the corners of the mouth in here. One thing to keep in mind and to be careful with is, you know, lines like this, lines around the mouth, lines around the eyes of females, kind of use sparingly. Don't get them too thick because that is one of the techniques that you can use to show age. If you get too many lines around the mouth, too many lines around the eyes, it's going to make the character appear older. So you can use that as a tool moving forward if it is an older character, but just kind of be careful using that on a character that you want to appear younger. So now we can go ahead and kind of start to bring in these lines. So we're going to start here at the corner of the mouth. We're going to follow this line up until it hits right here where this triangle meets the circle. That's basically going to be our guideline that we want to stop the line there and break it in towards the center. So this is going to be that Cupid's bow part up here above your lip, and this is where the lip cuts in. So going forward, let's go ahead and take this. Once again, these lines of the triangle, these are just guidelines like we talked about before. We're not going to follow them exactly. We don't want to trace them. They're just kind of to guide our eyes and our hand exactly where these lines need to be positioned. So we'll bring in this line up till it meets there, back in and down towards the center. And once again, we're going to bring this up till it meets there, back up, and then down towards the outside there to where it meets the smile line. And then I'll fill this in a little bit more because I tilted a little bit too much. Okay, so next up then, we can go ahead and just complete the center line. So we'll bring this in from one side to the other. We want to make sure that this kind of meets up and has a nice taper. We don't want it too thick. We want that to be all one solid line there. And now we can bring in this bottom lip. To do that, we're going to go ahead, like I said, just kind of follow along with this. We're not going to trace it, but we do want this to have a little bit more of a natural curve to it. So we'll bring this down, up, and around so it's got this kind of nice flow to it. So there's the basic lip. From here then, we can go ahead and shade in to kind of start building value in that lip. I usually like to go in a little bit lighter on the bottom lip and then go in darker on the top. And then from there, we can go ahead and add in some highlights to kind of make it glossy. Of course, you want that nice glossiness to the lip, the female lip. It gives it just that really feminine quality and looks really nice and professional and a finished quality. So we'll do that one in darker and then just going in here and kind of erasing and giving that nice shimmer and glow to the lip. And there's your basic female lip using those guidelines. So from here, let's do one more. We're going to go ahead and let's go back to the basic shapes again. So we're going to start out with our, turn the opacity back up on this. We're going to start out with our line here, just drawing that center kind of smile line. And then once again, our top triangle here, our bottom triangle here, like so. Want our circle in the center here. We can do the center line here, and then out to the smile lines on the side. Now this one, I want to do it a little bit different. We're going to simplify it a little bit, and this is going to be kind of a stylized approach. This is honestly going to be something that you would use more so for, let's say, like a pinup girl that has sharp lines throughout. So if you're doing a nice stylized character with, you know, sharp lines in the clothing, sharp lines in the jawline and the chin, maybe sharp cornered eyes, this would be what I would use for that. So we're going to go ahead and do these lines here at the corners of the mouth. We'll get those in. And once again, I'm going kind of sharper with these. And then doing the actual connecting lines. I'm actually going to use pretty much what we've got going on here with the overall basic shapes that form this. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of angle this down and back up to where it meets, back up there. And you can see this is very sharp angles connecting everything. This bottom one, same thing here. We're going to use sharp angles there. And then we'll kind of use a sharp angle here where it meets in the center and pull it back up like so. Let me get that more centered. There we go. Too low. There we go. So this, like I said, is just a very stylized look. Once again, we can go ahead and go in and add the highlights in here, the shadows on the lip. Once again, making the bottom one a little bit lighter, going in a little bit darker on the top. And this one, I'm going to do the highlights a little bit different. I want to stick with that overall theme of that just really sharp look, the geometric look almost that this has. So when I go in and add the highlights in, I'm going to do that with actually just kind of like squared off, almost like oblong rectangles there, so it still has that very stylized look to it. So that's another option. And we're going to take this one more step, and we will go ahead and do one more set of triangles. So let's go ahead and do our smile line here. Once again, triangle at top, triangle at the bottom, making sure the top one is smaller than the bottom one. There we go. And then the smile line here the corners off to the side, and then our circle in the center, line down the center. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're just going to make this just a really just kind of subtle hint at these lines. We're not going to connect everything. So I'm going to do the lines here off to the side. And then from here, the center line is going to kind of be the focus of the mouth. So I'm going to pull just this line completely out. That's going to be the center of the line of the lips. It's going to break them up. Now for the upper lip and lower lip, we're not going to connect those lines. We're just going to come up here about halfway up the triangle and cut it in and back down and out, kind of fading that taper down. And it's just going to give a hint of where those lips come in, and like so. So this, like I said, gives a really subtle look. It honestly knocks home a really kind of light feminine look as well. And then once we go in and actually add the colors in or the shadows, what we're going to be able to do is kind of use those colors or the shadows, depending on how you're coloring it in, to do the work of those lines. You're just not going to have that harsh line coming up and meeting. So like I said, it kind of gives a more feminine look to everything. So like I said here, that's what that shadow is doing. It's kind of finishing in where those lines go. So the viewer's eye can see it. They can make it out that that's, where the lips are, but it just doesn't have such a harsh look to it because that color is doing the work, or in this case, the shadows are doing the work. So just like so, and then going in once again with the highlights there, so you can see how that works. It's a very just nice, soft look to it. I'm going to erase a little bit of those guidelines that we first did there, just to break them up a little bit. Whatever layer, I've got them on, there we go. So you can kind of see it a little bit more. So there we are. That's 3 different ways to do just kind of a closed mouth smile using those basic shapes. So from here, let's go ahead and do an open mouth. So we're going to go, and we're not going to make it super huge as far as the opening. So we're going to do, once again, the smile line here. And then we're going to bring this down. Not anything crazy. We're just going to have just a small sliver of teeth showing. From here, we can go ahead and use the same technique here with the triangle. Now, one thing to remember, once you start opening up the mouth, those lips are going to kind of start to stretch out a little bit. So they're going to be a little bit more compacted and, puffy almost when they're closed. And as they start to open, the mouth starts to stretch. Those lips are going to kind of stretch out across the face. So you want to keep that in mind as you're doing the triangles. Those are going to be a little bit more stretched as well. And then we can kind of start filling in from here using that same technique. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll get the corners of the mouth in here. And then we can start pulling up the sides once again, starting from here, coming up till it meets that circle, back down, up, back down, around into the corner, then doing the center line here for the top lip, center line for the bottom lip here, and then pulling the bottom lip out and up as well. So this, like I said, it's got just that nice hint of the teeth there. If you want this to be all one row, you can, or if you want this to kind of split, you can put some lines in there to kind of show the upper and lower rows of teeth. And then from here, once again, just going back in, shading in everything to kind of build up the values in there. And that allows you to go in and add those ever so needed highlights to the lips to give them that really nice shininess that we kind of have come to expect from, cartoon female lips. So we can just put those in there, and we've got a really nice smile out of a lip. Now from here, stretching it even more, we can go ahead and open the mouth and show some actual full-on open mouth teeth to where you might have a top and bottom row. So let's go ahead and smile line here. Now we're going to bring this down a lot farther. So it's got more of the mouth showing. Once again, this triangle is going to stretch even more now. You can go ahead and do the center line there and bringing this one down. This thing to remember here is you don't want the lip too fat coming off of this connecting line here. You want it to kind of taper off, so it's going to have a nice sharp angle inside here, and then it's going to get bigger as it comes down and around. It's one thing to definitely keep in mind to make it look, you know, pretty realistic, and you don't want too much lip showing right there in the corner. And then from here we can go ahead and pull down teeth, and let's just go ahead and do a tongue in here rather than another row of teeth right now. So let's go ahead and start to kind of darken this in. We'll go ahead and pull this one out, up to that center, back down, up, back down, to the bottom of this lip here. And once again here, I've got a little bit too much space there. I want it to look like that other end, so we want it to be more like that, where it kind of breaks off. And then pulling this one down and around like so. Once again, kind of want it to taper into those corners. So that's one key to make sure that that has that nice taper here with that really small angle. You don't want too much showing. Back up and down, and then blocking in the teeth here. Just kind of pulling those up, and then if you want to add in some, you know, black around the sides to where the teeth don't fill in the entire mouth there. Of course, this is going to get filled in super black just because it's inside the mouth. Do the tongue here, darken that in. As you can see, this is just a really nice open mouth smile. Kind of, you know, a female laughing or chuckling at something, finding something, you know, funny, or just really kind of hamming it up. And then from here, once again, just going in and shading everything in and adding those values to the lips. Get that. Switch back to the regular here. Just get these shaded in real quick here, and once again, darker on the top here. And then throwing in the highlights. So there we go. And then once again with the teeth, it's up to you how you want to do them. If you want to, you know, add in some extra lines on this one, I might just to break it up a little bit, you know, and do it like so. And then even here, if you wanted to shade in a little bit on those teeth towards the back, because those are going to be kind of further into the mouth, so you can kind of shade and follow that up towards the front. So, and then from here as well, you can add some more details to the lips here if you want to do an extra line here that the top or the bottom lip actually comes off and kind of breaks up across here. That's an option as well. It's up to you, and it's up to the style that you are going for. So next up then, I want to focus on doing the 3/4 lips. So let's go ahead and start out with our triangles one more time. This is going to be a little bit different though. If you watched the 3/4 video, remember that the way that it goes back in the distance, you're always going to have a part right here that has more surface area than the other side, because this is in the foreground. This is kind of tapering off back into the distance, so keep that in mind. So the next thing we're going to do here that I like to do with the 3/4 lips is kind of show a little bit of teeth here. To do this, we'll pull up the side here into the smile. So we've got that. Kind of like start in this section here towards the back, and then we will pull up another line. We're almost going to make a triangle here above and below, but the key here is I want the bottom and top lines of this triangle to go past this angled line here. So you see those come out past that line, this comes out past that line. So these come out further. That's because this is where the lips are going to kind of wrap around in on those teeth. So we're going to pull this up. This is going to be the portion of that top lip that's kind of back in the distance. This line's going to come up and around and follow that triangle, but we're not going 100%, like I said, tracing it. And then this line's going to come back down towards the center. So this is that kind of break off point here where the Cupid's bow would be up here. So you see that the way the lips come in together. And then this one, same thing, is going to come up or down and around and back up. And then this is going to wrap up behind that tooth as well. So bringing it around like this. This gives just a really nice angled look for that 3/4 view. And then you can go in and of course shade everything. I think you get the idea with this one, so I'm not going to go in really dark with the lines on this. Just wanted to do it quickly to kind of show you the difference here. So we'll get this filled in here. And that gives you kind of that 3/4 look that you can kind of see. Let me actually go in darker. I wasn't going to, but it's kind of hard to tell now that I've got the shading in there. So we'll just bring this in a little bit quicker here. Like I said, the key is getting this line to go out past that angled line of the triangle. You want this line to come back in and touch there. This bottom line to come out past there and then back and around. So there we go, a nice 3/4 angle view. And then of course with profile views, kind of the same idea. We're gonna have the triangle stacked on top of the other triangle. They're gonna be angled out though, like so. And bring them up to kind of the smile here. And then I usually like to cut these in, cut that top off the triangle, bringing it back down and around. Same thing here, just pulling this out a little bit to give it a little bit more shape and back up and around. So this would be the profile view, and you can kind of see how that works. Once again, making sure that bottom one is a little bit thicker and fatter. You can see this one takes up a little bit more space on this, but it still is a little bit thinner and comes up a little bit further, so it still has that upper lip look to it. So there is the profile view, and that pretty much finishes today's tutorial on how to draw mouths. Give it a go. Let's see what you can do. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you like today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Speaking of new videos, the next one in the series is going to be how to draw cartoon hair, so you don't want to miss out on that. And if you followed along with today's video, like the brush that I was using and you use Procreate in the iPad, that brush is now available in my new brush pack. It's now on Gumroad. The link is in the description below for that, as well as the link for Keep Creating, the Learn, Draw, Share art community. That's on Facebook. If you're not part of it, you need to hop over now and join. It's a place where you can share your artwork, meet new people, and take part in the weekly art challenges, and we want you in. So hop on over and join. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.